As modern cruise ships continue to impress audiences and travelers with their impressive size and luxurious amenities, we compare the newest icon of the seas to the historic Titanic. Among the many ships that have carried passengers in glamour and comfort, two giants stand out for their record-breaking size, unprecedented grandeur, and innovative design. Just some of the reasons we compare Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas to the legendary RMS Titanic. Although separated by more than a century, these two iconic passenger ships have left an indelible mark on maritime history. Today, we'll take an in-depth look at the differences between these two giants of the seas, comparing their size, capacity, onboard amenities, and even their historical legacies. Royal Caribbean's Grand Cruise Ship, Icon of the Seas, has an impressive gross tonnage of approximately 250,000 tons, while the legendary Titanic was designed for 46,000. The newest giant is also far superior in length, 365 meters to the Titanic's 269 meters. Historical significance aside, if one simply compares the two ships in terms of physical parameters and total passenger capacity, it is not surprising that the current largest cruise ship in the world, Icon of the Seas, is significantly larger than the relatively old transatlantic liner Titanic. Of course, a modern cruise ship built in 2024 will be larger and more technologically advanced than an ocean liner launched in 1912. But this does not mean that the latter ship was more revolutionary or innovative for its time. A quantitative comparison of the two ships serves as a good illustration of how much passenger ship design and construction has evolved in the more than a century that separates these two legendary maritime giants. Even a cursory glance reveals that the Icon of the Seas dwarfs the legendary Titanic. Although the size and complexity of the Titanic's design was an engineering marvel by the standards of its time, the design of seagoing vessels has not stood still. Modern cruise ships, especially the world's largest, dwarf Titanic and its ilk in every conceivable way. When Titanic set sail on her fateful maiden voyage in 1912, it was considered unprecedented for passenger ships of the time. Travelers could not believe how much space they had to explore and how spacious the ship's first-class staterooms were. Like the Titanic, the Icon of the Seas is now considered the greatest of giants. While a length of 365 meters is impressive in itself, it doesn't give a full picture of the difference in size between the two iconic ships. It is in the number of decks that the modern giant dwarfs its unrivaled predecessor. While Titanic's 9 passenger decks were an unprecedented luxury for the time, the Icon of the Seas has twice as many, with decks stretching the entire colossal length of the ship. The difference in size between the two ships is most apparent when comparing their gross tonnage. The Icon of the Sea's staggering 250,000 tons makes the Titanic's 46,000 tons of gross tonnage seem tiny, even though the Titanic was once considered a gigantic ship. Although the Icon of the Seas is only 35% the length of Titanic, it is 5 times the weight of the legendary liner. This significant increase in the number of decks also explains why the maximum passenger capacity of Icon of the Seas is much higher than that of Titanic. When Titanic set sail from Southampton on her maiden voyage, she carried approximately 2,000 passengers and crew. Icon of the Seas can accommodate more than 3 times that number. This modern ship can comfortably carry up to 7,600 passengers and 2,350 crew members at maximum capacity. This is a scale that would have been unimaginable in the early decades of the 20th century. Although the unprecedented size of the Titanic and the tragic circumstances of its sinking are usually remembered first, the most remarkable feature of the ship was its unprecedented luxury. With entertainment and amenities never before seen on transatlantic passenger ships, the Titanic epitomized luxury travel in the early 20th century. Transposed to the present day, it is clear that the Icon of the Seas seeks to captivate the public in much the same way. Although the Titanic was promoted to transatlantic travelers as the pinnacle of travel sophistication, and the icon of the seas was envisioned as a floating oasis and ideal family vacation destination, both ships were designed to redefine the concept of the passenger liner. Although their purposes were fundamentally different, the Titanic was designed for prestigious transatlantic crossings and the Icon of the Seas for pleasure cruises. Both ships represented an innovative vision of the future of ocean travel for the masses. Both ships offered passengers amenities and entertainment that were unprecedented for their time. To better understand the comparison, consider what each ship offered separately. Since Titanic was designed to be a true symbol of luxury and splendor for the elite of Europe and North America, it is not surprising that the ship was equipped with lavish interiors, numerous restaurants, and a host of amenities that were completely innovative for ocean liners of the time. In addition to luxurious staterooms for upper-class passengers, the heart of Titanic featured a grand staircase that would have graced any mansion of the era. As for accommodations, travelers were offered a choice depending on the class of ticket purchased. First-class passengers could visit a luxurious dining room where fine dining was served, a more casual and trendy Persian-style cafe, and a veranda cafe under a huge glass dome. Titanic offered amenities that were innovative for the early 20th century, from swimming pools and Turkish baths to sports fields and promenade decks. Although these amenities seem standard today, they were unprecedented luxuries for a passenger ship in 1912. In addition to restaurants and luxurious staterooms, Titanic passengers were offered a number of recreational amenities to help pass the time during their voyage. These included a swimming pool, an elaborate spa, a gymnasium, several libraries, and a study. Extensive outdoor decks offered shuffleboard, lounge chairs, and views from specially designed observation decks. While all of this may seem modest by today's standards, in 1912, Titanic achieved a level of luxury that was truly unprecedented for a transatlantic liner of the era. Interiors, amenities, and dining aboard the Icon of the Seas. Like Titanic and many ships before it, Icon of the Seas was designed to revolutionize comfort and entertainment at sea. In essence, it is a floating paradise for recreation, leisure, and entertainment. It also offers travelers a wide variety of accommodations and stateroom layouts. It would take hours to list all the amenities this ship has to offer. When it comes to dining, the ship has more restaurants, bars, and cafes than the average American city, from well-known chains like Starbucks to unique restaurants created specifically for this ship. If the Titanic was designed for passengers to pass the time in luxury and comfort, the Icon of the Seas is built so travelers won't want to leave. Despite significant differences in size and displacement, they have relatively similar top speeds. Both ships are designed to cruise comfortably at 22 knots. While it may seem surprising that a ship more than a century old can achieve the same speed as a modern, state-of-the-art vessel, it is important to realize that speed is not a priority for cruise ships. Once on board, passengers are enjoying a vacation, not a race through the water. While the Titanic was built for transatlantic voyages to transport people between Europe and North America and back, the Icon of the Seas was built for the sole purpose of providing travelers with an unforgettable vacation at sea. Unlike the Titanic, which was designed as a transport ship for leisurely and comfortable cruising while enjoying the time on board, which was the purpose of boarding the ship, the Icon of the Seas, when designed as a high-speed ocean liner, could reach higher speeds due to modern advances in engine design. As for the place of construction, both of these legendary ships were built in Europe. Titanic was built at the now-defunct Harland & Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The Icon of the Seas was launched at the Meyer Turku shipyard in Turku, Finland. Such large-scale projects required huge shipbuilding capacities which these yards possessed. The time frame for building the two ships was surprisingly similar, despite the many differences between them. The Titanic took thousands of workers 1,098 days to build, while the Icon of the Seas took 900 days. Given the advances in construction methods, materials, and technological improvements that occurred in the century that separated these two maritime legends, it is striking that the time required to build them was virtually identical. While the Icon of the Seas cost more than $2 billion to build, making it the most expensive cruise ship ever built, the Titanic took about £1.5 million to build. Although estimates vary, this amount is roughly equivalent to 1.6 billion, taking into account historical conversion rates, inflation, and other factors. Despite the colossal distance in time that separates the two ships, they share many similarities. While the Titanic and the Icon of the Seas may seem incredibly different, they are both essential symbols of maritime innovation. Though separated by more than a century, these two maritime giants changed the perception of ocean travel, allowing passengers to enjoy unprecedented comfort and luxury during their voyages.